Hello everybody and welcome back to our month of brews. This is episode 4 and we are gonna play a deck we are fondly calling the kitchen sink because we pretty much throw everything at our opponent. This is a deck that has a lot of components of previous decks that we've done and that we've seen in the meta and that have kind of sometimes been good, kind of sometimes not. And I don't know that the deck is good, but I definitely know that the deck is fun. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we're doing here. At its heart, this is a Bloodrite Callus deck. So the entire idea behind the deck is that we are going to leverage this card, the Bloodrite Callus, which is a 3-cost weapon that when you play it, you sacrifice all of your units, and it gains +2/+2 for every single sacrificed unit. The nice thing about this card is that if you have a way to generate tokens and things, you can get a pretty powerful weapon early on. It's not unheard of to get a 6/6 or an 8/8 Bloodrite Callus on turn 3 off of playing like a turn 1 Grenadin, turn 2 Grenadin, having 4 units out, turn 3, drop the Bloodrite Callus, swing in with a 6/6, and it's very difficult for a lot of decks to kind of deal with that kind of value. But then the problem is you've kind of gone all in, right? Well, the way that we kind of hope to get the Bloodrite Callus back into play is using Smuggler Stash, which used to see a lot of play in the old Armory decks, but after the balancing that it received to up its cost to 6, which quite frankly I think is a really good place for it, considering that this can often be a draw 4. I mean, even if it's just a draw 3 for 6 when it's things that you really want, like you know you're not going to draw sigils, you're going to draw units or weapons, and it's things that you've already used previously, so you can probably make use of again and kind of really leverage. I think that's kind of a balance. I know a lot of people got upset when it got moved from 5 to 6. I think it was good, and I think, you know, it's maybe doesn't see as much play now, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It was a little oppressive, we'll say. But this deck does use this very well because we are throwing a lot of units into the void, and then we're also probably getting rid of a Callus after hitting a couple of units. It allows us to use that Callus as kind of removal and then get it back again bigger because, like, okay, let's say that we throw the Callus out on turn 3 and maybe it's a 4/4, right? Turn 6 rolls around, or if we're lucky, turn 5, which we'll get to in a moment. But turn 6 rolls around, we Smuggler Stash that 4/4 back along with a couple of units, and suddenly we're on 6 power with units in hand and the Callus in hand, so we can reuse all of that and possibly turn around and give the Callus, say, +8/+8, because we're going to drop out maybe a couple of units that will create more Grenadin, and then we're going to be sitting on, say, 4 Grenadin in play that we returned with the Smuggler's Stash, and then also the Callus on the back of that, and then we get to swing in huge with now a 12/12 for 3, kind of out of nowhere. Also, it helps because it means that we don't go all in on this deck and then just have a completely empty hand and no way of recovery, or have to hope the top of our deck is going to give us something nice. If we've got the Smuggler's Stash in hand, we can really play around with the fact that we can afford to throw things away knowing we're going to get that value back. So Smuggler's Stash, Bloodrite Callus really, really do well going hand in hand. They really fit each other. So now the rest of the deck is kind of what you'd expect. Grenadin in order to get value, Dark Wisp in order to get value. The things that we've added, that, well, of course, Combust because we have the Grenadin, and then since we're running the Combust, we're running the Grenadin, we're running the Bloodrite Callus, Madness just fits perfectly into the deck, and if you're running Madness, you also might as well run Devour, because that way you can Madness Devour your opponent's things, all kinds of fun stuff, right? The things that this deck has added in the recent changes since the early kind of seasons when this was a deck is the Miner's Musket, which is something that I've put in here just to kind of help reduce the cost of, say, some of the units so that we can drop them out with the Bloodrite Callus, or even reduce the cost of the Bloodrite Callus. Also, this kind of fits into the deck as an early play for removal so that you can kind of clear the way for maybe a turn 3 Bloodrite Callus. And if you do get really lucky, you can maybe drop the Miner's Musket, reduce a Bloodrite Callus, pull a Bloodrite Callus that you can then play for 1 later. And so that gives you some really spicy turns where you might be Smuggler Stashing back a 1-cost Bloodrite Callus. And so you can Smuggler Stash and Bloodrite Callus in the same turn. Just a kind of a nice little way to get some extra value out of that. Along that same vein, so we run the Grenadin drones because they make tokens. You run the Dark Wisp because whenever it dies, we get a Wisp back, which helps us draw cards, replace what we've lost. Spark Hatcher because we kill the spark catcher, and then we have something in play that will help block enemy weapons. This ends up being really good against the armory matchups and things, because you demolish everything you've got, drop a giant weapon in play, swing at your opponent, maybe kill their creature or kill their weapon, and then on their turn, well, they'll just drop a weapon and hit you back again, maybe kill your Bloodrite Callus. Not if you got the spark catcher. Then they've got to get through that little 1/1 Grenadin that's now standing in the way, or maybe their other guys that would swing through and hit your Callus have to get through this little junk 1/1 that you can then turn your Bloodrite Callus into maybe extra removal or a couple extra hits, things like that. It basically forces your opponent to have to deal with what you've got instead of just swinging and taking out your Callus immediately. So it's kind of helpful there. The assembly line, same thing. One drop that, or one spell that makes 3 units, helps you with your Bloodrite Callus, helps you with blockers. Now, the other things that we've added to the deck are the Library Phoenix to hopefully reduce the cost of, say, the Smuggler Stash, the Bloodrite Callus, the Madness combos, things like that. The nice thing here is that we don't care if the Phoenix survives. If they're using removal on the Phoenix, that means they're not using it on all the rest of your stuff. And if the Phoenix, like, if you don't have anything good going on, you can always just trash the Phoenix and not care about it. And if you need it later, you can always Smuggler Stash the Phoenix back again and drop it into play. So it's kind of just extra value here. And this deck, the way we are running this Bloodrite Callus deck really came from this Library Phoenix. This is a card that a viewer asked us when we were doing our monthly brews, like, oh, well, can you do something with Library Phoenix? Because they'd seen some of our other brews, and like, well, sometimes we have some creative stuff. I have worked with this card for a week. A solid week of just constructing decks, testing them out, throwing them at things, trying to get them work. I cannot get this card to be anything better than a little bit, maybe okay. Everything about this card just feels like it's off by a couple of turns. The fact that it costs 4 for a 2/2 that gives you no value the turn you play it is really rough. The fact that the entire format right now is all around, hey, we need to be able to kill creatures because everything's got creatures, means that you can't run just the Library Phoenix, or it's just going to eat up all the removal that's otherwise dead in your opponent's hand if it's your only creature. And if you do run it with other things, well, the Library Phoenix doesn't reduce the cost of units. So all of your units that you're playing in order to eat up all of that other removal mean that your hand doesn't have a lot of stuff in it for the Library Phoenix to reduce, right? We tried running it with a bunch of draw spells, but it ends up being really janky because, okay, cool, you reduce the cost of your draw spells, you draw a bunch of stuff, oh, but then the Phoenix is dead, and all that stuff you drew didn't get the discounts, so you didn't really get much of an advantage out of the Phoenix. It just... Also, drawing a bunch of cards is kind of a non-combo with the Phoenix's second ability, which really wants your hand to be empty to be good. Like, everything about this thing just feels like a really just tension that is difficult to fix. I think this spell, this creature, this card would be much, much, much better if instead of at the start of your turn, if it was just a summon ability that just reduced the cost of all non-unit cards in your hand by 1. It'd be easier for you as a deck builder to play with it because suddenly you can be like, okay, when I know the cards I want to be reduced, I'll play it then. It doesn't become as much of a lightning rod because it's like, well, it did its big thing, but they still have to care about it because if you do empty your hand, it's going to become this kind of, nice sized flyer that's going to really mess with your opponent and really hurt what they're doing. So, I mean, something like that would probably make it better. But this card's a really, really, really difficult card to make be worth pretty much anything. The best kind of units and the best kind of things that I liked using this with was relic weapons and other relics, but it's really hard to turn that into a win the game within a couple of turns, which with a card like this that's so slow and takes so much to protect in order to get any value out of, you really need its payoff to win you the game in a couple of turns, or else you're just you're going to spend all this effort and time and not really get anything out of it. And I feel like there's almost the right kind of stuff in here for it. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on this for the future to see if we can maybe make this card do something. But for right now, this card's just really in a bad spot. But in this, I didn't know I was challenged. In this deck, it does work out pretty well. Because we're just kind of trying to get maybe a little bit of value out of it, and if we don't get any value out of it, we'll at least get some removal out of it. And if we happen to get a little bit of value with the Smuggler Stash, or with the other spicy card that you've probably all noticed and are waiting for me to talk about, the Witching Hour. So if we can get a little bit of value out of that, then we can kind of, get something going here. And then this brings us to our last card, Witching Hour. Very difficult to cast because of the 6 shadow influence required, but if you can get it off, this is just amazing. And we don't have that big a difficulty getting this card to go because we are running 8 of the dual power cards, plus we're running 9 more of the shadow. So we're running a little bit more shadow than we are fire just because of the witching hour. Also because you'll notice that we need 1 fire, 1 fire, 1 fire, 1 fire, 1 fire, only 1 fire. That one also only needs 1 fire. That guy needs 2, but like I said, he's not the biggest thing in the world, and that one only needs 1. So it's not difficult to cast our fire cards, influence-wise. So running a little bit more in the way of shadow is probably better. And if you can cast this, it's just going to be super nice, especially if you can do some fun things like cast the Witching Hour, get the 4 Pale Riders, which here you go, let's go and see what those are. You get a 4/4 for 4 that's deadly, a 4/4 for 4 with flying, a 4/4 for 4 with killer, and a 4/4 for 4 with lifesteal. Cool thing about the Witching Hour is that if you need to pump a Bloodrite, you can play the Witching Hour, maybe kill something with the killer effect, and then play the Callus and get an 8/8 Callus off of playing the Witching Hour either free or super cheap. Get your 8/8 Callus and then swing through whatever is left, maybe kill 2 things and have a big Callus left over. Or what can be done is if you get into the late game and you have a Callus out already, or you've got a board of a bunch of little junk that's not really going to do much, you can play the Callus, kill everything that's out there, kill your opponent's biggest unit after destroying all of your stuff, maybe getting a 10/10, 12/12, whatever, getting a big Callus, because a 12/12 Callus only needs 6 Grenadin. 6 Grenadin is 2 assembly lines. Like, it's not even that difficult, right? So you get your 12/12 Callus in play, and then you need to protect it. Hey, guess what? Now you have a Witching Hour. Here's a bunch of 4/4s, one of which has killer, so you might be able to, you know, destroy whatever the thing is. You got one that's got flying, so you can block whatever their biggest flyer is. You've got a deadly one, so if they do try to swing in at your Callus to break it, they're going to lose their biggest unit to your deadly guy. And then you've got a lifesteal, just to kind of, you know, give you a little bit extra life and help extend the game. So it's a really good way to protect the Callus after the fact, and hopefully you've played enough stuff that your Witching Hour is just free at this point. That's kind of the goal. So this is the kitchen sink, and we just kind of throw it at everything. And I gotta tell you, there are some hilarious interactions that can happen with this deck. One of them I did in a test game that I was doing right before I went live for the recording. I ended up a player played 2 Tavrods, right? 2 Tavrods are in play. I've got a board of 10 just Grenadin, right? 10 Grenadin, one of which was the Spark Catcher. Play the Callus, get a 20/20 Callus, get a Grenadin, kill one of the Tavrods. I'm now sitting on a 2015 Bloodrite Callus. The opponent kills the Grenadin that's in play, and after killing the Grenadin, swings in with a Tavrod. Doesn't really do much. I now have a 2010 Callus in play. Madness the Tavrod away, swing for 20, kill the opponent in 1 swing. It was absolutely great. So plays like that are the ones that really make this deck something to see. So let's go ahead and get to the games and see what we can do. And here we are with game 1, playing the kitchen sink against Anawan. And this is a perfectly keepable hand. We have a Callus, we have an assembly line, we've got a Dark Wisp. We can scout the top of our deck. We only ever need, like I said, 1 fire unless we have a Phoenix. So let's go ahead and keep it and see what we can do. Our opponent plays a Shadow Sigil, passes the turn. Oh, and there is our Smuggler stash. We're going to go ahead and play a Crest of Chaos. Pretty much anything is good here. Yeah, we like the Stonescar banner. That'll give us the 2nd fire we need. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent plays another Shadow Sigil and a Dream Snatcher. Ooh, this will be fun. So for our turn, we're going to go ahead and play the Shadow Sigil, play the Dark Wisp, pass the turn to our opponent. If they swing, we'll probably just let them hit us for 2. Our opponent plays a Fire Sigil, plays out a Vampire Bat, and sure enough, is going to swing. We will take that hit. Opponent passes the turn back to us. We get the Devour. On our turn, we're going to go ahead and play the Stonescar banner. We will swing with the Dark Wisp, see if our opponent wants to block with his bat, and the opponent does not block. Excellent. And then we'll go ahead and play out the assembly line, and then pass the turn back to our opponent. At this point, our opponent's probably going to want to kill one of these guys, maybe if they've got a Vera in hand. Opponent draws a card, plays out a Granite Waystone, and I wonder if they're going to swing. Yeah, they are going to go ahead and swing. We'll go ahead and take the swing. And opponent plays a Black Iron Manacles on us. Okay, that's going to be a little interesting. Not something we're too terribly worried about. On our part, we're going to go ahead and play the Shadow Sigil. We will play the... swing first, obviously. Sorry, almost messed that one up. So swing first, hit for 4. Now we are going to take 2 here, which is going to be a little bit annoying. So our Bloodrite Callus is going to go from an 8 to a 6 to a 2, which means we're only going to get a couple of swings with it. But we're going to go ahead and swing at the Dream Snatcher. Go ahead and take him out. And then we will pass the turn back to our opponent. All right, we take 2 from drawing 2 cards. Our opponent will, I'm assuming, swing at us for 1. Yes. And then passes the turn back. We will go ahead and scout the top of our deck. We don't really need to care about much else. We don't need a Granite Waystone. We'll go ahead and ship that one. Swing at the bat. We are going to go down to 1 on our Callus here, but we're not taking any actual damage, which is the beauty. And then the opponent passes the turn back. For our part, now we're going to lose the Callus this turn, so we might as well go ahead and see if we can get some value. We'll Amethyst Waystone, play the Quarry. We will go ahead and grab the, let's see, we can play the Witching Hour once we finally get it active. Let's go ahead and play the Witching Hour, or grab the Witching Hour, swing at our opponent for 8, and then we will pass the turn back. We're going to take a pretty big hit off of when we use the Smuggler stash for the, from the Manacles. We're going to take a pretty big hit. Sorry. Words were getting difficult there. We're going to go ahead and Smuggler stash. Grab back the, let's go with, let's see, we're on 6. Let's go ahead and take a Dark Wisp and a Grenadin. And then, of course, the Bloodrite Callus. Pass the turn to our opponent. Take our 5. Ouch. Now, the nice thing here is that we might be able to simply play out the Grenadin, the Combust, and the Callus in order to deal with this 3/4. Okay, opponent swings. Gets back the Dream Snatcher. Plays a Fallen Oni. Oh, we are going to be in a bad state here. I wonder how much we can get this reduced. If we get a... Okay, we got a Shadow Sigil. Not what we're really terribly needing. Play the Shadow Sigil. Let's see. We're going to need to go ahead and deal with what our opponent's doing over here. We do have... we have 7, so we can play out... Let's see. Our best bet is going to be... What? We can kill the Flyer. We can kill the Statuary Maiden, but I think we need to kill the... No, the Dream Snatcher's not doing too much to us right now. Let's go ahead and start by playing the Bloodrite Callus. We'll swing for the Memory Dredger. We will play the Grenadin, we will play the Dark Wisp, then we will combust the Grenadin onto the Statuary Maiden. That's fine. And then we will pass the turn. Whatever he equips that to will block with the Dark Wisp. We need to steal... Hopefully we draw a Madness soon, because if we can steal this Dream Snatcher, we'll be in a much better position. Statue remains kind of frustrating. But that's actually okay, because it means we're not going to draw a card. Okay, so the opponent is going to swing like this. We're going to go ahead and block here. Take the 3. We'll probably kill the Statuary Maiden again. Wow, I'm having such difficulty saying that word. Oh, excellent. We got the Madness. Okay, so this is going to be interesting. We can, what? If we Madness away... Okay, let's Madness away the Stonescar Maiden. Or the Statuary Maiden. Swing at our opponent. Then we want to combust the Statuary Maiden into the Dream Snatcher so we don't draw too many cards. And then we will Callus into Excellent. Okay, so pass the turn. We're only going to take one. This gives us hope. Gives us definite hope. Opponent gets a Dark Wisp. We get a Witching Hour. Unfortunately, that is not what we really needed to see. If we do the Smuggler's Stash, we're just going to lose here. So pass the turn. We need to get something. We need to get one of our Grenadins so that we can possibly play the Witching Hour. Azendel's Gift. Ooh, that's going to be kind of spicy. I think we're going to lose this one, unfortunately. Unfortunately. Yep, we're going to go ahead and lose this one. Well, we just didn't quite get any of the stuff that would have gotten us out of this fight. So let's just go ahead and draw this, and we'll lose it in style. Pass the turn to our opponent, and good game, opponent. That was an unfortunate loss, but it happens. Moving on to the next one. So we didn't get a lot of our aggro there, unfortunately, but that happens. That's part of, it's part of the game. And here we go, against an opponent named Pumpernickel for game number 2. This is not keepable. Man, we are good at drawing Witching Hours. 4 of them in a deck. You'd think we had 12 or something. Okay, well, this will be interesting. We have no fire right now. See what happens. This is kind of the typical thing for streaming and recording. Opponent draws a card. Opponent. We get the sweet games off camera. Opponent deep in the tank. Plays a Fire Sigil. Plays an Oni Ronin. Ooh, that's going to be rough for us. We get a third Bloodrite Callus. Did you know what we didn't need to see? How about a third Bloodrite Callus? Opponent plays a Rakano Banner. Swings with their 2-1. Maybe swings with their 2-1. Maybe he doesn't know if they want to swing. Maybe they're contemplating life. There we go. Swings with their 2-1. Plays a Blade can. Oh, man. We are facing some interesting decks. Hey, at least we got some fire now. So we're going to go and play the Granite Waystone. This is not going to be super good for us. So we'll pass the turn back to our opponent. We really need to get units. Units would be marvelous. We would appreciate some units. Opponent swings. Units that aren't Witching Hour would be great. Any of our 1 or 2 drops. Even a 3-drop at this point. I just said not Witching Hour. I distinctly remember saying not Witching Hour. Pass the turn back to our opponent. I think we're not going to get to play this game, guys. Our opponent is deep in the tank from the end of our turn. I don't know what our opponent is contemplating so much. Maybe they're doing a lot of navel gazing. Okay, opponent draws. And plays a Justice Sigil. And swings again. A Sigil would be nice here because we could take out their entire board. That'd be pretty sweet for us. Well, we didn't get a Sigil. Pass the turn. Units, Sigils, either of those 2 things. Come on, deck. You can do it. The good news is our opponent's not really doing much. I mean, they have a board, but they're not really kind of doing anything with it. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Fire Sigil. Opponent swings. We take 6. Go down to 8. We are quickly getting to the point where there's going to be no way out for us. Opponent. There we go. Passes the turn. We will play a Fire Sigil. Now we're going to go ahead and madness away at the Bladekin Apprentice, if they'll let us. Opponent, deep in the tank. Allows it. We will swing with the Bladekin Apprentice. Hit our opponent. Opponent's still deep in the tank. Okay, excellent. Now we'll go ahead and combust the Bladekin Apprentice to kill off the Oni Ronin. And maybe stabilize on 8. Who knows? Who knows? We're definitely going to try to play this this Phoenix soon, though. Probably going to get torched. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Justice Sigil. Opponent passes the turn. Okay, we are going to go ahead and play an Amethyst Waystone because we need something. We're going to go ahead and play a Library Phoenix and pass the turn back to our opponent. Probably going to lose this to a torch. Although, I mean, if I was my opponent, I would be throwing them at me since I'm on 8, but opponent wants to kill the creature. So, okay, that works for me. Opponent plays a Minotaur Oathkeeper that's a 5/5, plays a Fire Sigil. Please give me a Sigil so I can... Oh, if we had gotten a Sigil there, we would have been in such a good position because we could have madnessed away the 5/5, swung with it, and then used a callus. We're going to go ahead and pass the turn back to our opponent. Opponent, if they've got the torch, they win. Opponent swings for 6, puts us at 2, and passes the turn back. Oh, okay, well, Sparkcatcher, Combust the Sparkcatcher to kill the 5/5. And we will have a 1/1. Pass the turn back to our opponent. Slowly getting to where we can use Witching Hour, guys. That's not gonna happen. Opponent plays a Fire Sigil. Well, do we want to go all in? Sure, let's do it. Play an Amethyst Waystone. Swing at our opponent for 1. Play a Bloodrite Callus. Swing at our opponent for 2. I don't see any good way for us out of this game. Pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent goes to 16. Can we deal 16 points before our opponent finds a torch or a unit with charge? And an Oath Book. Ooh, okay. Okay, so opponent is Oath Booking it up. Let's see. We will madness away our opponent's dragon. Swing with said dragon. Discount something on the top of our deck. Swing with the Callus for 2, because why not? And then we'll replace the Callus with another Callus, killing off the dragon. Well, we have the opponent on 9. I don't know that there's any chance we can do anything here. We have the opponent on 9. Opponent doesn't have anything, it looks like. We're going to go ahead and play the Grenadin drone. Play the Library Phoenix. Swing at our opponent for 2. Put our opponent on 7. This is a surprise, guys. We might have a chance here. Can we dodge a torch? Okay, Rebuke on the Phoenix. That's fine. Tranquil Scholar, that's going to be a problem. Well, kind of. Not really. It's not really much of a problem because as long as it doesn't get double damage, we can actually just kill it with the Callus. Okay. Let's see. If we assembly line, well, that will kill it next turn. We can... Is that even a good play? I mean, that's a kind of a good line, right? Kill this. Play the... Yeah, let's kill this. Play the... Swing for 1. Sorry, almost forgot. I mean, we're going to have to do this just so we don't die to a torch. Play the assembly line. And then play another Bloodrite Callus. So now we have a 10-10. So now we're on 12. Pass the turn to our opponent. Did we actually win this game? Wow. We actually won this game. Okay, well that was a surprise. We managed to dodge torches. Here we are with game number 3. It's been interesting. These have been interesting games. This is the keepable hand. I mean, this is the stuff that this deck does. We'll need to get the discounts for the Witching Hour, but yeah, we've got time. We have time. We have cards. We can do this. Opponent plays a Granite Waystone, plays an Oni Ronin. We will pseudo-match them. We will play a Granite Waystone. We will play a Grenadin drone. Pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws a card. Opponent plays a Seed of Glory. Opponent swings or declines. Which one? Opponent deepen the tank over the swing. And opponent decides to... We still don't know what the opponent decides to do. Opponent decides to very deeply contemplate their turn 2. Opponent plays a Seek Power. That was a lot of thought to decide to play a Seek Power. Okay, we will play a Shadow Sigil. We will go ahead and swing with one of our Grenadin, rather. Sorry. And then we will play out a Dark Wisp. Pass the turn. The reason we're only swinging with 1 is because we do want to have 2 blockers back in case they have a piece of removal. Opponent passes the turn back. Okay, so we are going to Quarry first, see what we find. And the answer is hopefully sigils. Hopefully sigils. Ooh, we do find a Stonescar banner, which unfortunately we do need to grab here. But we can always get back the Grenadin with a... Let's see, once again, swing in. We can get back the Grenadin with a stash later, Smuggler stash. We'll play the Stonescar banner, pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws a card. Opponent, deep in the tank, plays Grenadin Waystone. Granite Waystone. Grenadin Waystone? It might as well be called Grenadin Waystone. It's a Grenadin. Passes the turn back. We are going to go ahead and play a Shadow Sigil. And then, do we go all in on... Let's go on. Let's do it. Let's go for the Phoenix. Play the Phoenix. We will not swing. Pass the turn back to our opponent. If our opponent doesn't have a torch for that Phoenix, we'll be okay. Opponent does have the torch. Wisely decides to use it. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Justice Sigil. Opponent plays a Deep Forge Plate. Ooh, that's pretty okay. We really desperately need to draw something, but if we draw a Callus, we can always play the Callus. Let's go and just take the 7 this first time, and then see what we get. A Combust would do it as well. Stonescar banner will not do it. We'll play the Stonescar banner. We'll play the assembly line. We'll pass the turn to our opponent. We really, really, really would love to find a Combust at this point. Opponent plays a Seed of Glory. Opponent plays another Deep Forge Plate. Opponent swings. We will 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's just go ahead and block this guy with everything, because why not? Hopefully we'll find a Combust off of the draw. We have 2 draws to find a Combust. Finding a Combust on either of those would be great. Finding a Devour and a Madness would also be great. And we'll take the 6 here. Go to 11. Well, we found a Callus, we found a Devour. Not quite what we were looking for. Let's play the assembly line. And we will pass the turn to our opponent. See what the opponent's going to do. The opponent will... We really want to find that Madness. Hopefully we'll find it. We might just end up devouring our own Grenadin just to gain the life and hopefully find the Madness and the Sigil so that we can Madness Callus. That'd be good. That'd be a good kind of turnaround set of plays right here, because it would give us the 6, 7, 8, so we could swing in for 8 off of that and then get the Callus out as a 6/6. So that would be, I mean, that would be a 14-point swing if we could do it. So the opponent plays a Fire Sigil. Opponent plays an Ikaria the Liberator. Never mind. That's going to be 13 points of damage. We can block a little bit of it. So let's go ahead and block some. See what happens. Block. We need to devour this one so that we can survive. So we're going to go to 13. We're going to take 11. We found the Sigil. Can we find the... we did not. So it looks like this one's just going to be over. Not much we can do about it, because they've got the Ikaria. So even if we wanted to, wouldn't be able to do anything. We could make an 8/8, but then we would just die to the 6/6 that swings in, because we'd go to 1, so we'd be on 3. So there we go. Opponent gets this one, unfortunately, and ends it with the BM. Oh, opponent, why? Deck, so good job. Here we are with game number 4. Let's see what we can do here, and we are going to not keep this hand. Wow, what is up with us and multiples? Okay, this one is actually quite a bit more playable. Still needs some units, which is interesting in a deck that has so many units that we find so few. Anyways, pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws. Opponent will play a Seed of Progress. Opponent plays a Seek Power. Opponent passes the turn. We will play out a Fire Sigil, play out a Dark Wisp, and pass the turn back to our opponent, who draws. Plays out a... Thinks Deep. We have a lot of deeply thinking opponents on turn 2. I didn't realize turn 2 was such a difficult turn for so many decks. We will start with the swing. Might as well. We know what we're going to do. We're going to play the assembly line. Desert Marshal. Interesting. Okay. I wonder if the opponent's going to block. Sure. We'll let the opponent block. Check out the Desert Marshal. Make room. Opponent will not block. Okay. That was an odd play then. We're going to play the assembly line. Pass the turn back to our opponent. I am at a little bit of a loss over why that was supposedly a decent play. Whatever. Opponent will pass the turn. We will play out a Fire Sigil. Let's see. If we swing, they're probably not going to block. If they do block, they lose one. Then we can make a 6/6 swing for 6. They might drop another Desert Marshal, which will kill it and go to a 6/4. That sounds fine. Let's go ahead and swing. Swing at our opponent. Opponent declines to block. We will hit them. We will then make an 8/8, and we will kill their 2/1. Opponent probably has another Marshal, is going to play it after the fact, which is the way to play it if you're going to play it that way. No, they don't. I wonder what they're holding. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Time Sigil. Opponent probably plays a Sandstorm Titan. No, opponent plays nothing. We will swing at our opponent for 8. Opponent might have something, has nothing again. Opponent goes to 12, pass the turn. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Justice Sigil. Opponent plays a Combry Magister. What? Okay, opponent's on 12. We'll go ahead and Madness that away. Swing at our opponent for 5. And then just kill our opponent. I have no idea why this card is being played in a deck on the constructed queue, but cool. Whatever, we got it. That was an interesting. I'm not sure why that card is there, but we'll go on to the next game. Here we are with game number 5 with the kitchen sink. These games have been going pretty quickly. Either we get wrecked or we wreck, which is kind of, I guess, typical for Eternal. We'll go ahead and keep this hand. You either draw decently or you don't draw decently. Every now and then you do get some sweet, interactive, cool back and forth games. But I just find that a lot of the time it ends up being one of the two of you just doesn't really get your game plan out. Opponent draws. Opponent is playing 3 colors, and they just played a Praxis banner. So interesting there. We're going to play a Stonescar banner just in case they kill everything. I don't assume they will, but they might. You never know. We're going to swing. We're going to go ahead and play out the Spark Catcher, pass the turn to our opponent. If they don't play a unit here, we're going to be in a pretty good position, but I'm betting that this is some kind of like Life Force deck, so we're probably expecting an Aeon to come out right here. We are going to, let's see, we're expecting an Aeon to hit the field. I'm going to be abducted. That's slightly annoying. But I don't know that there's much we can do about it. Most likely they're going to abduct this. So let's go ahead and let's swing and see what the opponent does. Let's see if I'm right and this is an Aim the Abductor coming down at us. No Aim the Abductor. Okay, well, that's unexpected. We're going to go and drop this then, play the Bloodrite Callus and swing for 6. Take our opponent to 13. I thoroughly expected that to be a unit. Interesting. Opponent draws. Opponent. So there we were deep in the tank on turn 3. Opponent plays a Torrent of Spiders for 1 spider. Okay. Well, okay then. We will go ahead and play a Crest of Chaos. I mean, it's a blocker. It will block. Combust, sure. We'll keep the Combust on the top. We'll swing with our Grenadin, see if the opponent wants to block. Opponent does not want to block. That is too bad for us. We were really hoping for that block. We'll go ahead and swing at the spider. Take it out. Play a Grenadin drone. Pass the turn to our opponent. We do have the ability to Devour if the opponent does something crazy. Opponent plays a Shadowland Guide to get the spider back. We have been playing against some very interesting decks, guys. We'll go ahead and Devour this so that we can see if we find like a Madness or something to go along with that Combust we've got. Got the Combust, got a Fire Sigil, and we pull a Dark Wisp. Okay, so let's go ahead and play a Fire Sigil. We could play the Dark Wisp, combust the Dark Wisp into the Shadowlands Guide. Probably not worth it. Let's swing with the Grenadin and see what our opponent does. Opponent actually decides to block. Okay. Oh. Nice. Okay, cool. So we are going to get a pretty good swing here at our opponent. Our opponent's on 14. We are going to hit them for 1, take them to 13. We are then going to combust away a Grenadin, kill their 3/1, take them down to 7, and follow up with a Library Phoenix and see what my opponent does. We might actually be able to empty our hand out, because we can play both of the things we have here. Opponent plays a Vault of the Praxis, opponent plays a Grenadin drone, and I think that this is going to be pretty good for us. So let's see. Play the Dark Wisp. Depends on what we draw off of this Wisp. Oh, so if we don't kill the Wisp, we'll be in a little bit better position to make this come in as a 5. So I think what we're better off doing is what? Can we kill both things? We cannot kill both things. Well, it depends. Let's Devour the Wisp, see what we get. See what we draw off of our 2 draws. A Witching Hour. Okay, we're definitely not getting an empty hand here. Amethyst Waystone. Okay, so... swing it a Grenadin. Swing with both guys. Fight. Play the Amethyst Waystone. Pass the turn. Okay, let's see what our opponent does. If they have another spider, that's going to be a little bit annoying, but that's not going to be the end of the world. They're on 6. They play a Shadowlands Guide, which is going to get them back a spider, probably. No, a Grenadin drone. Okay. They get back a Grenadin drone. So they're kind of staying in the game, which is cool. They play a Torrent of Spiders, get 2 more. Yep. So we really need to find a way to empty our hand, which is going to be difficult with this Witching Hour. Start the turn. We're going to get the discounts. Deep discounts. Smuggler stash. Okay, well that's actually kind of cool. Play the Fire Sigil. What do we have in here that we want to get back? Anything? Not really. Although, what we can do is we can swing on something. So my opponent's probably going to swing on us, which is not a terrible place for us to be. We can... what? Kill the spider. We can... I'm willing to bet they've got the Grenadin, the scrap tank. I'm willing to bet they have a scrap tank at some point. Kill their 3-1 and then pass the turn. They're going to have to swing out in order to kill the Callus, but they've also probably got something here. So let's go ahead and block the Phoenix on this 1-1. We'll lose the Callus, but we're okay with that, because we're getting some pretty deep discounts right now with the Phoenix. And oh, they've got the Flyers. That's annoying. Okay, well, that's fine. So we're going to need to get through these 3 bugs. We're going to need to get our Phoenix through those 3 bugs is the bigger deal. Okay, another Library Phoenix. That's decent. So we can play the Library Phoenix and pass the turn because we're not really worried about what's going on right now. Ooh, opponent with the Madness. We will go and Devour away the Madness. Okay. They devour their own unit. So we're close to getting the 6 we need for the Witching Hour. Crest of Chaos to scout the top. See what we've got. It is another Crest of Chaos. We kind of want that. So we can Dark Wisp. Smuggler stash. Let's go grab... Let's go grab 2 Grenadin drones and the Bloodrite Callus. We'll play both drones. So what this is going to allow us to do is this is going to allow us to get in with the Witching Hour, pass the turn, because we'll have the sigils we need, and the Witching Hour will be free. Opponent gets a bunch more of those guys. Stop it, opponent. You're being frustrating. But that's actually okay. We're still in a pretty good position here. So we're going to go ahead and scout. Sure, keep you on top. Play the Quarry. That will bring that guy out for free. We could also put the assembly line. Take the Grenadin drone. Okay, now if we swing out, our opponent doesn't have to block everything, but if we swing with this, they're going to have to at least block the Phoenix. Okay, let's go ahead and swing out. See what the opponent does. Okay, opponent blocks. They leave 2 guys back. That's mildly unfortunate, but hey, it happens. I hope they don't. They leave 3 guys back. So we have 3 bugs in the air we need to kill. We can do this. Excellent. So we're going to go ahead and play the Bloodrite Callus, which is going to come in as a 10-10. Draw us a card. We'll go ahead and kill a bug. Excellent. We don't even lose anything off the Callus. It's perfect. Play the Witching Hour. This was a much harder to navigate game than I would have expected. Kill a bug. And play a Sparkcatcher. And a Grenadin drone. So this way, if they do madness away, they might madness away the flyer, but they can only hit us for 5, so that's not really something we care too much about. Another Vault of the Praxis, that's not doing much to us. They have a Witching Hour. Oh! Okay, I see what you're doing, opponent. You're mocking me. But you're on 7. Did the opponent just kill the killer that already used its killer effect? They did. Why would they do that? Oh, another Witching Hour. Okay, opponent getting lucky with the double Witching Hour. Maybe we'll get lucky and get another Witching Hour too. Probably not, but it'd be nice. Opponent with another Vault. We, however, pulled a Stonescar banner. So we can swing. Opponent's going to have to block. Let's see what the opponent blocks. Okay. Okay. Let's go ahead and kill the flyer. Okay, so now the opponent's going to have to swing in. We can block with things. Pass the turn. Let's see what happens. This is definitely going to be interesting. The opponents use 2 Witching Hours. Hopefully they don't have a 3rd or a 4th anytime soon. We can draw our Witching Hours, which will be free, thanks to the Witching Hour. Oh my goodness, Torrent of Spiders. Okay, so the Callus is not getting in there. We're going to need to get in there with flyers. So either the Witching Hour or the Phoenixes are going to have to end this game for us. This is going to be a rough game all around. We don't have much of a way. Let's see. We can steal a flyer. That's not going to really do much for us. If we block 4 of these onto the... Yeah, let's just block all 4 of these onto him. Because we can block 1, 2, 3, take 1, keep... Well, no. Let's block this way. Because then we can kill another one of them. We did get the madness. It's not quite going to get us through. Let's go ahead and kill this one. Pass the turn to our opponent. Maybe we get lucky the opponent swings out, although they're on 19 now, so it's going to be a little bit rough to get that. But if we get the Witching Hours, we have 3 more Witching Hours. If we get those Witching Hours, we'll be okay. Sure. Let's go ahead and block there. Okay, opponent devours. We just really need to find our Witching Hours. This was a very interesting back and forth game. 2 super jank decks versus each other. Okay. Unfortunately, our opponent happens to have a deck that, while typically bad in the meta because of all the mass removal, is really good against us because we're trying to hit with a Callus. So I hope the opponent appreciates the fact that their strategy is sufficient here. I'm actually pretty happy to see something like this going on. So it's kind of cool. Because this is another old, like, old tiered version deck. The older Witching Hour deck. Well, we drew a Sigil, so unfortunately, we are, what, 4, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Well, they're not going to kill us yet. Let's go ahead and make our opponent actually find a kill. I mean, they should get it pretty easily. We don't have any way of doing mass removal. I think that does it. That should do it. Yes, that does it. Okay, good. Well, that was really interesting. I mean, we almost had our opponent dead, and they got really good pulls on the 2 humbugs. Okay, our last game with the kitchen sink. This is game 6. We actually had a pretty long back and forth, which is a surprise for a deck like this. Typically, a deck like this either wrecks or gets wrecked really quickly. That was a really interesting game. Here we are going to... I don't think we're going to keep this hand. It's just a little bit too slow, just a little bit too not doing anything. This one, it's only slightly better. Only slightly better. We can afford to go ahead and scout since we're not really going to be doing anything on turn 2. We got a Granite Waystone on the top. Sure, we'll keep the Granite Waystone because it'll make some Grenadin soon. We'll make a Grenadin draw. An opponent draws a card. We'll make a Grenadin draw on our turn and then a Stonescar banner. Opponent plays a Seat of Wisdom. We draw a Granite Waystone. We will play a Grenadin drone, play a Stonescar banner, pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws. Opponent plays a Crest of Wisdom. Opponent, deep over the scout, decides to top it. Probably means it's a later game play that they're wondering if they're going to get to that point since we are playing Grenadin. I mean, we're presenting a decent clock, but that doesn't mean we're going to do much. We're going to go ahead and swing with our Grenadin first, see what our opponent does. I mean, on one in those colors, probably not very much. We'll play the Quarry, and we'll take the Dark Wisp. We'll play the Granite Waystone. We'll play the Wisp, and we'll pass the turn to our opponent. Opponent draws the card they scouted, thinks about the card they scouted, plays the Crest of Wisdom. Ah, so it was a Crest and they were wondering whether they wanted to keep the Crest. Okay, I could see that. Opponent, deep in the tank on the scout again. They must be getting some really bad scouts. I feel sorry for you, opponent, because I understand that. I understand those feels. Opponent tops the scout, I believe. I think it went to the top. And we drew a Madness. We will go ahead and swing for 3. Play the Granite Waystone. And then we're going to go ahead and play out the Grenadin because if they have a Hailstorm, they're probably going to use it here and then we can play the Phoenix. Versus if we play the Phoenix now, it still dies to the Hailstorm that we're expecting. The opponent plays the Crest of Wisdom. Yeah, they must have been looking at another Crest on top. Another Crest, I should say. Wow, I can't speak right now. Opponent bottoms. Opponent, no, passes the turn. Okay, we will swing in for 4. See what the opponent does. Takes the 4. We will, I mean, we might as well go for it. Bloodrite Callus. It's what we do. Swing for 8. Put our opponent at 8. And we have the Madness in hand, so we have the ability to steal something if they play something decent. There's only one thing in the entire game they could play that we can't steal. Well, or Aegis. They could play something with Aegis, but there's one Sentinel. Okay, there's the Renarch, and that is going to be game. So we're going to go ahead and Madness away the Renarch, swing at our opponent for 8, and then swing for 5. And that is game. So as you can see, against like the typical kinds of decks, this one does pretty good. Against the go wide unit decks, unfortunately Callus fails, which is why you see Callus drop off. If decks like Grenadin are on the rise, you're not going to see this deck much. So that was the kitchen sink, and as you saw, the deck is interesting. You never got to see the Miner's Muskets hit play because we just kept drawing the same things over and over again, which oddly enough was a lot of Smuggler Stashes and Witching Hours. Like we drew a lot of Smuggler Stash, Witching Hour, and thankfully Bloodrite Callus, but we didn't really see a lot of some of the other things in the deck, which is kind of interesting. But you got to see how the Witching Hour can be useful. Unfortunately, the turn where we really got to use it was against a player also playing Witching Hour. Like, who'd have thought that would happen? How many decks out there are playing Witching Hour? I mean, how many people are trying to jank it up with a Witching Hour, right? But hey, I mean, if it's working, it's working. If you're having fun, then awesome. And I am glad that we got to face that deck, especially because we got it so low and we were so close. And then they got to go Witching Hour. And literally it came down to Witching Hours bringing the game back to either side. So it was really cool. Really, really fun game. But you can kind of see where some of the tension in this version of the deck goes. If you wanted to make this deck actually competitive, the things you would do is you would drop the jank of the Library Phoenix and the Witching Hour, maybe go down to only 3 Smuggler stashes. You would put some torches in so that you had a little bit more in the way of removal, and just kind of maybe also put in like 1 or 2 in Cold Bloods, maybe just put in some Annihilates, just some things to help get your Bloodrite Callus through. Another thing you could think of putting back into here would be, I believe it's Devastating Setback. Because if you could just wipe the board of small units the turn after you play the Bloodrite Callus, or the turn, then basically you drop your Bloodrite Callus, you get a big swing, they drop out some kind of blocker, and you just go, cool, give everything -2/-2, maybe kill out a lot of the stuff. Like, as you saw that game against, like, the Go Wide deck, we absolutely would have wrecked it if we had just been able to go, hey, okay, here's a sweeper. And that's one of the few sweepers that you can get in these colors. So it's things like that that the deck should use if you really want to make it a little bit more competitive. And you would drop the Witching Hours and the Library Phoenix. Both of those are just kind of neat. We got to see the Library Phoenix do its thing one time, but like I said, this card it's a pet card. It's a card that a viewer wanted me to build a deck around, and this is the only deck that I could fit the Library Phoenix into that was even marginally playable. All the rest of them, like, they were kind of fun when they worked, but they worked maybe 1 out of 10 times, maybe, at the most. It was a very headache-inducing week trying to get this card to do anything. But as you saw, that was the kitchen sink, and it can be a lot of fun. Bloodrite Callus is just a very fun card. It can be a very aggressive card, and there's a lot of different ways that you can build this deck to make it more competitive and do more. Like, for instance, you could put in the Tripwire Grenadin at one of the 2-drops, because it deals 1 when it comes into play, can help remove a blocker, deals 1 when it leaves play, so it can swing in, maybe hit something for 1, or it could even hit the field, hit something for 1, play a Callus after it, hit something for 1 again, maybe kill that thing so the blocker's out of the way, and then you can swing through. So you can do kind of really good fun stuff like that with it. There's just a lot of ways that you can edit this deck around to make it kind of actually work in the ladder. But I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we're going to be back again with more brews, because that's what we're doing this month. We are brewing up a storm, guys. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye.